Welcome to another Straight Up Tuesday tip. I'm 𝗤𝘃𝗀𝗀. With me as always is Mark Ainley. Mark, we're using our new podcast recording here.
I love it. We tried going away from Zoom for a while there and it didn't work out. And I felt defeated, but I'm excited. This is a really cool system that we have.
Yeah. So let's see if our quality is back to normal. We had a little hiccups back in December. So I think, obviously we have our live recordings, which are great, but doing these online, we're trying to up our game a little bit.
All right.
All right. So what do we got here? You and I were talking off air, and this sounds like this has been around for a while, but we were talking about the 5-day versus 30-day notice. And if you had a Freddie or Fannie backed mortgage, you actually need to give your tenant 30 days from the CARES Act from a few years ago. So talk to us a little bit about that, and we'll talk about how this is being enforced now.
Man, this is so crazy. Something so that's been around for so long that just has just been disregarded. Now, for the landlords that have not been following it, it's benefits. So you're going to probably hate me by the time you're done with this, thinking that you have to change your process up and allow for more time. But I'll tell you before we end this how you can account for that. And you have the CARES Act. So going back to COVID, in the tail end of COVID, the government passed the CARES Act. And part of the CARES Act was all about keeping tenants in their homes. And part of that was, hey, if you are receiving government money, maybe it's Section 8 housing, or if you have a Fannie or Freddie backed loan, which, call any of our house hackers out there, you are required to give a 30-day notice versus the traditional 5-day notice. And that is something that's been intact since 2020. And fast forward to 2024, just last year, finally, the tenant rights groups started showing up to court, or the attorneys that were representing the free counsel tenants were getting in court started finally bringing this up. Judges were just letting it go through. Oh, 5-day notice. Okay, you're good. No one was asking any questions. At the same time, I'm not sure if they're supposed to be asking questions at that point. It's supposed to be counsel that brings it up. But it wasn't until late last year where this actually started being a thing. And I was hearing about a lot of landlords getting all the way through the process. So you're 3-4 months into the eviction process and it getting tossed out because the wrong notice was served.
Yeah. So to be clear, even if you have a commercial loan, if you are taking subsidized housing, it's a 30-day notice. Is that accurate?
Yes. So if you have a mixed use building, it's very gray on if, say you have a 6 flat and you have one Section 8 tenant and maybe you own it free and clear cash wise, but it's very gray that if you give 5-day or 30-day notice for the market tenant in the other 5 units. So they're saying almost if a Section 8 tenant is connected to your property, you should be safe and still provide that 30-day notice.
Got it. And is this is the national thing? Walk us through, because it's Freddie and Fannie, this is federal? This is a
federal law. And if you have a conventional loan, Fannie, Freddie backed, for some of the larger investors that have these big Freddie loans, I think with the SBLs, they are required to follow this as well too.
Got it, man. So that's not, so you can go in front of the judge, have your 5-day and get tossed out because it wasn't a 30-day notice.
Yes. Now you could shift your process. And this is what I was telling people to wait for the end for. But, right now, I mean, how many people run out and really deliver 5-day notices on the 5th or 6th of the month? Not many. We're not, a lot of people wait 2-3 weeks. They might accept a couple miscellaneous payments here to get the full amount collected by the 3rd week. Because, delivering the 5-day notice just ends up being a pain, especially if you use a process server. Now you're going to pay for money. It's going to cost you. But now what I'll recommend everyone do is, start sending that notice out on the 5th day or the 6th day. Now, technically, just for a clarification of terms here, rent is due on the 1st. It's late on the 2nd. Now, we're using the word the 5th day or whatever, because, most of our leases have that 5-day grace period. You could still serve a 5-day notice on day 2. So January 2nd. Now, you can't necessarily, for most people's leases, charge that late fee until the 6th of the month. So make sure that you're not confusing those terms. So if you want to serve a 5-day notice, 30-day notice in this scenario, weeks before you deliver the 5-day, a lot of times it's going to end up around that same time. And what they have in the literature, we'll put this in the show notes, how you can write this up, is for a 30-day notice, if you're going to send it out there on the 5th or the 10th of the month, you don't want them to pay just January's rent. Now all of a sudden February 1st passed, and now you got February rent too. You could include a wording on it that includes all subsequent rent that's due by the time this note expires. So if you're going to serve a 30-day notice on January 5th, February 1st comes, rent's due. So now you're saying when that notice expires on February 6th, they're required to have both January and February paid. So that's actually not bad, right? Think about how many landlords chase money every single month. If you're able to kind of, if you do have one of those tenants that are slow paying, you can at least only do it 6 times a year, basically.
Yeah, man, so much paperwork, so much hassle.
Oh, I know. That's why you got to make sure you have your head in the game. You can't do this part-time mentally, or you hire a property manager.
Yep. All right. Good stuff. Short and sweet. We'll link to the show notes. Any do you have a blog or anything on this?
I do. We have a blog. We wrote this up the other day. It was only because I saw another property manager ask if anyone's heard of this. I'm like, oh man, we got to put something out there, because if some of these property managers out there don't even know about it, then I can't imagine your typical house hacker has any clue this is going on.
Yep. All right. So we'll link to that in the show notes. All right. Chicago Fact. Who are we playing for? Who's our sponsor?
All right, our sponsor today is 𝗦𝘃𝗶𝗵𝗁 Financial, the Workman team, and we're playing for Raymond Howard. So Raymond bought a shirt off of the straight up Chicago merch store. Raymond, if it's only me today, gets this question right, you get a $50 gift card brought to you by 𝗦𝘃𝗶𝗵𝗁 Financial, the Workman team.
Well, I know you've been doing a lot of Duolingo, so I think you got this one. I spent like half my day in 𝗏 yesterday. So 𝗏, translated into English, means flower, beautiful, sunny, advanced.
Oh, man.
I thought you had this. I thought I was giving you a layup.
No, man. If you noticed on my Instagram post, my 365 days of Duolingo has gotten me really not as far as I thought it should be. So I'm going to take a stab in the dark here. I'm going to say advanced.
No, beautiful. It's a higher degree than pretty.
I would not have said beautiful. My second choice would have been flower, I guess. But I guess
flower sounds good. That was the tricky one I put in there for you.
I would probably said that because the word advanced probably wasn't a popular word when 𝗏𝘃, that name came up 100 years ago. So, man. All right, Raymond, I'm sorry. We're going to put your name back in the hat. You get a second chance to win a $50 gift card. But thank you to today's sponsor, 𝗏𝘃𝗶𝗵𝗁 Financial, Workman team. So appreciate you guys always being a sponsor. And Raymond, thank you for buying something on the merch store. So if you want to be part of the Chicago Fact, please go on, leave us a review, send us a snapshot that you left a review. We'll enter your name for the drawing. If you want to buy something off the merch store, your name automatically goes into the drawing. So Tom, thank you. Listeners, thank you. And we will see you next week.
Thanks all.